Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of FPL Fanzone. My name's Nick and in today's video we are going to have a quick look back at game week 7 and finally a green arrow for me, so on the trend to try climb back up the ladder. And then, given that we're currently on an international break, we're going to take the time to have a look at the fixtures for the next 4 weeks until the next international break, which is in game week between game week 11 and game week 12. We're going to look at my watch list for defenders, midfielders and attackers going forward. Obviously there's some injuries that have come out of the international break, so there's potential options for your teams as well moving forward. We're going to do a team review for one of our viewers who's reached out and asked for some questions of what to do with both Isak and Saka injured, so we're going to have a quick look at some of the options for their team, and then finally just a quick look at what my team is and some early thoughts before we head into game week 8. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's kick off with a quick review of my game week 7, 57 points, which for me is great. Anything around that 60 points is really good. My overall rank rose by 824,000 places, so back in the top half of the table just about, but a long way to go. I've got 2-3 transfers and 0.3 million in the bank, which gives me a couple of options for this week. So a quick overview of the team. Flecken in goal with 2 points, still no clean sheets. Really disappointing because I thought he had the easier of the two fixtures, and Pickford, my substitute goalkeeper, had 15 points this week after saving a penalty. So yeah, a bit of a disappointment there, but that's okay. Looking at Saliba and Gabriel, again Arsenal defence conceding a sloppy goal, whereas Trent Alexander-Arnold got me 8 points, so a great win there. Next up, Saka. I wish. And I think so many of us thought we were going to potentially captain Saka this week, but we held off. We stuck with Haaland, and he's blanked 2 weeks in a row, which is very unlike him. You know, even in the last 2 seasons, he's not done that. So it's certainly a bit of hindsight there, although we all considered it. Then Semenyo with 2 points, and Buemo's being Mr. Consistent as always with 8 points. Rodgers with 3 points, and then up front I had Haaland with 2 points, Lewis with 2 points, and I had Chris Wood with an 8 points, so another goal for him as well. So overall, really happy with the team. The bench actually had 21 points on it, 15 from Pickford, 1 from Diaz, who was obviously dropped and came on late in the game. Face got the clean sheet and got 6 points, and then Greaves didn't play, so 0 points for him. So yeah, overall a bit of a mixed bag there. Some missed opportunities with the goalkeeper and with Saka not being captain, but 57 points, 820,000 places up in the rankings. Let's get started. So like we do every week, just before the game week finishes, I put up my options for the week and my decisions before the deadline. And last week I had 2 main ones. The first one, which was do nothing. The team looked good. There was obviously a potential minutes risk for Diaz. And I did get a leak before the game that he wasn't starting. So I did sub him out for Calvert-Lewin. The second option was to actually make some transfers and to move Luis Diaz out and move Trent out and bring in Cole Palmer and Van der Ven. Palmer was on a hot streak of form, and so let's look at how they performed. So overall, the first option was the correct option to do, and it's the one that I went with. So Calvert-Lewin swapped in for Diaz because he was dropped to the bench, which gave me a +1 point across the two. If I'd actually made the transfers and taken the -4, having only 1 transfer last week, I would have been 6 points down. So I've only had 51 points this week instead of 57. So still would have been a green arrow, but just not as big as the one that I currently got. I've put 2 other options here, because one which I discussed in the video, which I didn't put down as an option, which was to captain Saka instead of Haaland. And by not doing that, not being brave enough to go against Haaland, it cost me 12 points. So it could have been a really strong week if I'd have gone with captain. And anyone who did go with captaining Saka, well done for making the right choice there. And then the other option, one which was in my head, was to play my bench boost. My bench looked like it had really strong fixtures across. All of them looked like starting players. And there was 21 points on my bench this week. So when I look at a bench boost, I typically look at them in double game weeks, because then each player on my bench gets to play twice. So therefore, if you say on average points for just turning up and playing would be 2, times that by 4, and because they're playing 2 games, you would then times that by, so 16 points is sort of a minimum you'd hope for on a bench boost. But 21 this week would have been a good option, and could have meant potentially that I'd had an extra 33 points if I'd have made the right decisions this week. So overall, my team's in a really good shape. As I said, could have had an extra 33 points, taking me up to nearly 90 points for the week, which would have been incredible. But instead, 57 points, big green arrow, happy. Let's move on to the next week. Okay, so we're currently at international break, which means we've got to hold off, we've got to wait. There's already some injuries happening with Saka coming off in the first game for England, and now a potential doubt for when we get back. So this gives us a little bit of time to now plan for the next 4 game weeks, but until the next international break. So I looked at the fixture ticker on Fantasy Football Hub, and these are the top 5 teams according to Fantasy Football Hub for the next 4 fixtures, so between game weeks 8 and game weeks 11. So first up, we've got Tottenham Hotspur with West Ham at home, Crystal Palace away, Aston Villa at home, and then Ipswich at home. So 3 home games in the next 4, and playing Ipswich there. It's, for me, I don't understand why they're top of this fixture. Villa at home doesn't necessarily seem like a great fixture for them at the moment. There's a couple of grey fixtures according to the FPL fixture difficulty rating. Next up is Manchester United, who again have been in terrible form so far, and then obviously there's a talk about Ten Hag potentially losing his job with the mixed fortunes of the team there, and no one really standing out. But again, good run of fixtures over the next 4, with Brentford at home, West Ham away, Chelsea at home, and then Leicester at home. So some good fixtures there. Hopefully a turn of form for Man United. So people potentially like Rashford, for Bruno Fernandes, there may be some opportunities there to go outside the norm over the next 4. The next 3 are teams that are going to be lowly owned in terms of the players and assets for fantasy football, but you've got Nottingham Forest, Wolves and Ipswich. So if you look at the Forest fixtures, they've got Crystal Palace at home, who are way out of sorts at the moment. They've got Leicester away, a newly promoted team that are conceding goals. They've got West Ham at home, who defensively have been very, very poor. And then they've got Newcastle at home, who haven't quite found their rhythm so far and are now hit by a few injuries as well. So obviously I have Wood in my team, and I think he's a real standout over the next 4 weeks if you're looking for a cheap striker. Wolves have been terrible this season, have conceded a bucket load of goals, but they are still scoring every week, getting a few goals each way. So while they've got Man City at home this week, so not a great fixture to be bringing anyone in, there's a couple of players that spring to mind here, like Ait Nouri or Cunha up front as options. And then outside of that Man City fixture, then they've got Brighton at home, Crystal Palace at home, and Southampton at home. So a real good run of home fixtures, a good chance for them to continue scoring goals. And as I said, both Ait Nouri in defence and Cunha up front are both had good attacking options over the next 4 game weeks. And then lastly, Ipswich, with fixtures of Everton, Brentford, Leicester and Tottenham. So the next 3 for sure certainly look pretty good. Everton are starting to find a bit of form now, so maybe a little bit harder than just a green fixture for them. But there's a couple of options there within the Ipswich team. Delapse springs out to mind as a cheap forward option for potential people that are looking to free up some money in the front line. So without having to go through all 20 teams, these are the teams that actually I'm keeping an eye on as well over the next 4 game weeks. I think Everton, their full run of green fixtures of Ipswich away, Fulham at home, Southampton away, and then West Ham away. Now 3 of those are away from home, but they all look like winnable fixtures. Branthwaite is now coming back into that defence, will shore that up. Pickford's just on a 15-point haul. I've got Calvert-Lewin in my team, so that fixture run for Everton over the next 4 looks really good. And then surprisingly, Man City are only 10th in the fixture ratings. But there's their run of Wolves away, Southampton at home, Bournemouth away and Brighton away suggests to me that they're going to get a bucket load of goals over the next couple of weeks. And so certainly now going to be looking at, obviously, keeping Haaland, even though he's blanked the last 2. I think he's certainly going to come back into form. And even potentially Foden with the likes now of Kevin De Bruyne being out, I think Foden could be a good option coming in. He's dropped price a couple of times. He could be a cheaper option in that premium range for that. And then the bottom three here are just, obviously we all are looking at the premium. So we're looking at Salah, we're looking at Diaz or Jota, we've got Cole Palmer, or we've got Saka and the Arsenal defence. And if you look at Liverpool, they're ranked 14th in the fixture ticker. Chelsea are ranked 19th, and Arsenal are currently bottom. A bit of surprise with the Arsenal fixture ticker rating, because if you look at Nottingham Forest on the previous slide, when they were playing Newcastle at home, they're only given a grey rating, so a ranking of 3. Yet Arsenal playing Newcastle at home have given a ranking of 4, which surprises me because the Arsenal defence is actually better than the Nottingham Forest one. So sometimes you've got to take these a little bit of a pinch of salt. But Liverpool, Chelsea and Arsenal are all playing each other over the next 4 weeks, which is why they're at the bottom of the table. So you can see that Arsenal have Liverpool, Newcastle, and Chelsea away on the end there. I can see that says Tottenham, but Chelsea have got Liverpool away, Newcastle at home, Man United away, and then Arsenal at home. And then Liverpool's next two are Chelsea and Arsenal before have a slightly better run of Brighton, and then got a tough fixture again with Villa. So if you've got premium assets there, they are fixture proof and they should be able to continue getting points, but maybe not the big hauls that you've been used to. So just something to consider over the next 4 game weeks. So based on the fixture difficulty rating over the next 4 weeks, here is my watch list for defenders. So up first, obviously Tottenham have a great run of fixtures, top of the ticket list. So Van der Ven, you could also potentially look at Porro if you've got more money here. So Porro also has a little bit more attacking threat. But Van der Ven has 2 clean sheets in the first 7 and 2 assists and only 2 bonus points. So I just feel that there's some opportunities there. I know he's got a couple of assists recently with the good fixtures, potential for some clean sheets moving forwards. Next up, a bit of a surprise for me is Dalot. He's quite high up in the points already for defenders, but Man United have 4 clean sheets in the first 7, which, when I consider how poor they've been, I was a bit surprised to see that they had 4 clean sheets already. So with the fixtures coming up of Brentford, West Ham, Chelsea and Leicester over the next 4, and then even beyond that you've got Ipswich and Everton, there's a real opportunity there for some more clean sheets for that Man United defence. And at only 5.1 million and less than 10% owned in the game, I think he could be a real shout. Not a huge amount of attacking threat there. He does have 1 assist, but has got 6 bonus points already, so almost the equivalent of 1 per game. So right now, certainly in my thoughts, and it wasn't until I looked at the data that he even crossed my mind as someone that would potentially be on there. The next up, Aina from Nottingham Forest, 2 clean sheets so far. So while the defensive numbers have looked good in terms of expected goals conceded, they are still conceding goals. So 2 clean sheets, no goal involvement at all, no goals, no assists. So not as much attacking threat there, but only 4.5 million. 6% owned, but fixtures of Crystal Palace, Leicester, West Ham and Newcastle in the next 4. Again, just one to keep an eye on for me. Next up, I'm really excited by Ait-Nouri. He was really strong at the back end of last season, and Wolves have been terrible defensively. But in the first 7 games, he's got 2 goals and 2 assists. Now, for a defender, that's brilliant. Surprisingly, only 2 bonus points. I guess not so surprising because they concede so many goals, so therefore that will in fact impact his ability to win bonus points. But 2 goals and 2 assists is certainly going to put some points on the board for him, despite the no clean sheets. Now, this week obviously they've got Man City at home, so unless you've got a rotation option, probably wouldn't bring him in this week. But after that, if you look at the fixture runs of Brighton, Crystal Palace, Southampton, Fulham and Bournemouth, and 3 of those being home games, I think there's a real opportunity there to pick up a couple of clean sheets, maybe pick up another goal or assist and get a haul in one of those weeks. And at 4.4 million and only 2.5% owned, as a differential, he can make a huge difference in your team if he goes on and gets a 10 or a 15 pointer in one of those weeks. So certainly one on the radar for me. Probably not this week because I don't really have much backup for that Man City game. But from game week 9 onwards, he's certainly one that will be in my thoughts. And then lastly, Rico Lewis. Of course, the obvious option for Man City would be to go for Gvardiol, but for those that are looking to downgrade, like I am potentially, Rico Lewis at 4.7 million has already gone up in price twice. It's 13.2% owned, so he's not necessarily a differential at this stage. But surprisingly, in the first 7 games, Man City have kept 1 clean sheet. Who would have thought? Second best defensive team in the league last year behind Arsenal, and in 7 games kept 1 clean sheet. It's just, it's a real shock. It's the opposite of the 2 Manchesters. I would expect Man City to have had 4 clean sheets and Manchester United to have had 1. So therefore, sometimes just looking at the data can really bust those prejudices that you have. Now, Rico Lewis is playing a little bit more forward. He's often doing that inverted fullback role, so can be sitting in the midfield a bit, and does get forward quite a lot. So he's already got 2 assists to his name, but only 1 bonus point. You've got to look at Haaland going to be hogging those points. They've got so much attacking threat in that team, and because they're conceding goals, he's also not going to have that opportunity to rack up those bonus points with the new change in the point system this season. So he is a cheaper option into that Man City defence. But actually, looking at the stats so far, they've not been great in the first 7 games. But those fixtures of Wolves away, Southampton at home, Bournemouth away and Brighton at home, surely there's got to be 2 or 3 clean sheets in there for Rico Lewis and that Man City defence. So again, while form has suggested that they're conceding sloppy goals, there's certainly some opportunities there. But let me know, guys, of these 5, who would you pick? Are you thinking of anyone else, any other differentials that haven't crossed my mind at the moment? But I think there's some real stars in this. It's just about picking the right one. Moving on to the midfield, and I think this is where Tottenham really start to come in their own, especially with the fixtures over the next 4. Maddison, Johnson and Son, all around 5% owned, so a big opportunity to be differential here. Maddison, 2 goals, 3 assists in 7 games. 6 bonus points. Just his XGI per 90 is 0.81, so almost a goal or goal involvement per game at the moment, which is crazy high. Brennan Johnson on a real run at the moment, run of form. I think 6 goals in his last 5 or 6 matches. That includes cup games, but 3 goals, 2 assists. Not getting the bonus points. Only 1 bonus point so far. So certainly Maddison is picking up those points ahead of him. And then you've got Son. Now Son's orange flagged at the moment, so not entirely sure he's going to be in there, but I think he's certainly a good option if he is fit, especially over the next 4, as a replacement for either a Palmer or for a Saka, who have tougher fixtures in the short term. But being orange flag, obviously he's at the bottom of this list. Then we've got McNeil, who at 8.7% owned is slowly getting more recognition. 3 goals, 2 assists, 6 bonus points. XGI of 0.52 per 90. And Everton's fixtures: Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton, West Ham, Brentford, and then Man United in the next 6. I just feel there's a real opportunity there with McNeil. Not entirely sure who I'm going to change out. I mean, Rodgers maybe, but he's not a concern for me at the moment. And then the last one on this list here is Foden, 5.5% owned. He's already dropped from 9.5 down to 9.2. So in that premium range, he's a really good price. With those Man City fixtures, Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth, Brighton in the next 4, it's just, there's a huge amount of potential. The only thing is he's just not really had many minutes. Like, he played 45 minutes in the first game, didn't play in the next 4 or 5. He's only played in the last couple. But De Bruyne's out, Rodri's out. I just think that there's an opportunity for Foden to get in, to find a few minutes, to get a bit of form and grab him while no one else has him. So he's certainly on my list of someone to keep an eye on. 9.2 million as well would free up a bit of funds if I move down from Saka, or if I could free up some funds to move up from Diaz potentially. But still, without the much game time to start of the season, his XGI is still 0.56 per 90, so an option there as well. But those Tottenham fixtures and the way that they're attacking at the moment underneath Ange Postecoglou. I think there's certainly some opportunities there, especially at that Maddison and Johnson range. But let me know what you think. Am I missing anyone else? Anyone that's caught your eye or think is going to be good? There's obvious picks like Mbrema at the moment, but he's already in my team. So certainly some other good ones in that sort of mid-price range. But let me know in the comments below who you want, if there's anyone you want me to discuss or in future videos. And lastly, the watch list for the forwards. Now, this is an interesting one because I've not really focused on the premiums. You've got Havertz is orange flagged at the moment, so Arsenal look like they've got a few issues with Odegaard out. Havertz is flagged, Saka's now flagged. There's going to be not a lot of attacking options up front there, so Trossard might become a good option in midfield, but up front, rather than going for the Havertz, Watkins, obviously Haaland should be in your team given their fixtures moving forward, and he's in 70% of teams already, so I'm not going to talk about him too much. Chris Wood is in my team. They're high up on the fixture ticker list for the next 4. Crystal Palace at home, leaking goals. Leicester away, leaking goals. West Ham at home, leaking goals. Newcastle at home, not solid in defence at the moment. So, especially for the next 4, he's certainly staying in my team, and I don't think he'll even be hitting my bench anytime. Next up is Cunha. Now again, Wolves have been scoring a lot of goals recently, conceding a lot more, but they are still getting on that. And outside of that Man City fixture, Brighton, Crystal Palace, Southampton, Fulham, Bournemouth, his XGI is 0.5 per game, so he's looking at a return every other game at the moment. And yeah, catching the bonus points. He's got 3 goals in the first 7. Delap, if you want to go cheap, really cheap, 5.6 million. He's only 4.8% owned, so a real differential in terms of that. 4 goals in the first 7 games. Brilliant. 4 bonus points. So his XGI is only per 90 is only 0.2, so he's probably a little bit overperforming his stats at the moment. But certainly at that price range, and with the fixtures over the next 6, you've got Everton, Brentford, Leicester and Nottingham Forest in 4 of the next 6. I think there's an opportunity there if you want a cheap forward as a backup, maybe as an 8th attacker or someone on a rotation period. Solanke, we've talked a little bit about those Tottenham fixtures and the Tottenham front line at the moment. I think there's some opportunities there. We still don't know whether it's Son or Solanke on pens, but with Son out, or at least orange flagged at the moment, I think Solanke could be on penalties as well. So certainly a good option. They're only 11.7% owned, so not massive ownership at the moment. So 2 goals, 1 assist in the first 7, but did have a couple of games missed through injury. So actually, got a really good rate of return at the moment at 0.8 goals per 90. So up there similarly to Maddison. And then last on the list, someone who's been going a bit under the radar at the moment, who's caught my eye though, is Raul Jimenez from Fulham. Now the fixtures aren't great. Villa at home, Everton away, Brentford at home, Crystal Palace away, then Wolves at home in the next 5. But 3 goals, 1 assist, and bearing in mind he didn't play for the first 3 or 4 games because Muniz was playing. 6 bonus points, it's 5.6 million, 5.6% owned in the game. I just think that, and an XGI of per 90 of 0.81. So he's only currently playing about 70-80 minutes per game. He's still being subbed off for Muniz at the back end of the game, but he's getting the goals, he's getting the assists, and he's getting the minutes. He's not quite a 90-minute man, but 70-80 minutes every game. So certainly one for me is quite interesting. Probably, if I had a spare transfer, would be looking at Calvert-Lewin to Jimenez, but Calvert-Lewin's fixtures are great for the next 4 or 5. So he's certainly one I'm keeping an eye on. When his fixtures get a little bit better, he may come back into my team. But yeah, what's your thoughts on the forward line? Who have you got? I don't really have the funds to get up to a Watkins or to a Havertz at this stage. I could probably stretch to a Solanke with a downgrade in somewhere else in defence, for example. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Next up, one thing I'd like to do a little bit more of is get more engagement with you guys and the community. And I got a message on my previous video from Sagan that said I have Saka, Isak injured and underperforming. Eze and Gordon. I've got 2 free trades available, 2 million in the bank. Do you have any suggestions? I don't have Salah or Haaland, only Cole. Actually, you can see he's in the FPL Fanzone League. So now, while I don't tell people how to play the game, I can give them advice on what I would do in this situation. And obviously, just looking at the fixtures over the next 4, looking at the team itself, it's actually pretty strong here. You've got Raya and Saliba in defence, so that Arsenal defence is great. Okay, it's dropped points in the last couple, what we thought were easier games. But you've got Pedro Porro, great fixtures coming up, so no concerns there. Faye's kept a clean sheet in the last one. Palmer's on a good run of form at the moment. He's consistently scoring, and there's a bit of a, you've got to have one of those. Okay, yes, Saka is now yellow flagged, but realistically, it didn't look like a terrible injury. We'll have to wait a little bit to see on that as well. Gordon and Eze are frustrating, but Gordon missed a penalty. If he scores that, that's a 7-point swing. He's suddenly got 8 points for the week, and you wouldn't even be worrying about him. That would have been his 3rd goal of the season. With Isak out at the moment as well, he's on pen, so there's an opportunity there for him to get him those additional goals. He's also playing as a number 9, so he's out of position. So with Gordon, I wouldn't be too worried right about now. I'd keep him in the team. Eze is a frustration. Crystal Palace have just not clicked this year. Last year under Glasner, especially in the back half from January onwards, they were in phenomenal form. And Eze and Elise just really kicked on, especially with Mateta as well. But that's not happened this year, and Eze's had a number of big chances, fluffed his line several times. So Eze, but he's still 90 minutes. He's still on penalties, or should be. We know Mateta took the last one, but Glasner has said that they will rotate those penalties. Muniz has got 6 points in the last game now. He's obviously a minute's risk as well. He started the season poorly, was dropped. Raul Jimenez, as I just mentioned, is now come on and have found a bit of form. So Muniz is only sort of getting the back end of games now, but he came on, got his points this week. Calvert-Lewin, great fixtures coming up. So overall, I look at this team, and there's not a huge amount of issues here. 51 game week points, and just 2 little things really. If you'd had Burn instead of Porro, there's an extra 7 points. If Gordon had scored instead of missing that penalty, there was another 7 points there. That's 14 points. He suddenly got 65 points and would have had a really strong green arrow for that as well. So overall, I look at this team and I don't see a huge amount of problems. But 1.9 million in the bank and 2 free transfers. Let's have a look at some of the options available to him. Okay. So let's have a look at the options for Sagan for game week 8. My first option always is just do nothing. If you wait another week, you'll have 3 free transfers next week. You still have the 2 million in the bank. Isak's price is locked, so it's not going to drop any further during the game week. And if you look at the team overall, it's not actually in a bad position. You've been a little bit unlucky there, and with maybe 2 choices or a little bit of change, you'd have had 15 points more this week. So overall, just the first piece of advice is probably just do nothing. Just wait off for that as well. But I understand if you want to deal with Isak. So first option, the second option, is I would put it into the Fantasy Football Hub AI tool. And AI recommended transfers was actually to take 3 transfers. Do Isak down to Wood, do Muniz down to Stewart, who would then become a bit of bench fodder for you. But that frees up enough money for you to move Diaz up to Salah. Now, I was a bit surprised by this because obviously Saka is still flagged as well. But it gives Wood, who's got great fixtures coming up, Muniz comes down to Stewart, as I said, who becomes a bit of bench fodder, maybe a rotation as an 8th attack. But then giving you a 3rd premium in that midfield of having Mo Salah in that option. So having Palmer, Salah and Saka in that midfield would look really, really strong for that. So that's the AI recommended transfers from the Fantasy Football Hub. For me, if Saka's okay, and I genuinely think he will be, he takes knocks regularly on that, so hopefully it's not, I'm saying that because I'm an Arsenal fan, I don't want him to be injured. I would probably do Isak down to Solanke. There's some great fixtures coming up for Tottenham, top of the fixture difficulty rating at the moment for the next 4. And then I would move Diaz to Embremo. Embremo is a bit of a staple at the moment. He's getting lots of opportunities. He's on penalties. He's 90 minutes. There's no worries there. You can just set and forget. He doesn't give you any headaches in that team moving forward. So it removes two of the potential challenges within that team for that. Option number 4, if you wanted to bring Salah in and Saka is out, you could just go Isak down to Wood and then Saka up to Salah. Unfortunately, you're 0.1 out from moving to Solanke, so you would, but I think that gives you a really strong lineup moving forward. Removes two of the potential problems or the injury risks in your team. And then if you wanted to get to Haaland, it's obviously a little bit difficult because Haaland is so expensive in the game at the moment. But you could move Saka down to Dibbling, who's looking great at the moment. He's, really a difference maker in that team. Unfortunately, Southampton just don't have a huge amount of attacking threat, but he is a bit of a star in that team at the moment. So would be a rotational player for you, but that allows you to move Isak up to Haaland, and you can catch him for that next run of 5 games, which look amazing for Man City as well. So, as I said, there's just some options here for you to play with. None of them are, I would sort of pick one over the other. But just this is the types of things that I would think about if I was in your position. And to be honest, I'm only one place above you in the FPL Fanzone League, so I'm going through similar challenges with my team at the moment. So let's take a look at them next. So looking at my team for game week 8, and yes, Saka is now yellow flagged. He wasn't when I originally put this slide together, but I've got Pickford in goal versus Ipswich. Seems like a good choice. Saliba and Gabriel away to Bournemouth. I've got Trent Alexander-Arnold at home to Chelsea, as with Diaz in midfield at home to Chelsea. I've got Saka, who's yellow flagged, but away to Bournemouth. Umbremo away to Man United, and Rodgers away to Fulham. And then up front, I've got Haaland away to Wolves, Calvert-Lewin away to Ipswich, and then Chris Wood at home to Crystal Palace. Now, looking at all of those teams, they're pretty favourable fixtures. Not really major concerns for any of those players there. The Chelsea one is obviously a tough fixture. The Liverpool-Chelsea match is going to be a tougher fixture there, so don't necessarily see a clean sheet for that Liverpool defence. And Diaz is a potential minutes risk. And then obviously Saka with the yellow flag. On the bench, I've got Flecken away to Man United. I've got Semenyo away to Arsenal, Face away to Southampton, and then Greaves at home to Everton. So again, this week I could potentially play that bench boost. All of those are fairly great fixtures. The reason I won't do it this week is just that Liverpool fixture doesn't look great. Diaz is a minutes risk. Saka is a minutes risk with his flag at the moment. So if two of them don't play, then suddenly my bench boost is completely wasted on that as well. I've got the captain's armband on Haaland again, hoping that since I bring him in, he gets his first returns since I brought him in the wild card in game week 6. But I think obviously Wolves are conceding so many goals at the moment. I think there's a great opportunity for him to get a hatful of goals in this one as well. So right now, there's a couple of concerns with Saka, Diaz and Trent Alexander-Arnold, who are all premium and can be fixture proof, but they've got a tough run of fixtures over the next 4, so we'll potentially look at using these transfers moving forward. But let me know, guys, what would you do with my team? If you had here, would you drop Saka to the bench, bring in Semenyo or bring in a defender? Would you transfer him out? Potentially I've got some money in the bank. I can't quite get to Palmer, but maybe move to a Maddison or move down to a Brennan Johnson, or maybe even a Foden for the Man City fixtures coming up. So a couple of decisions for me to make as we reach closer to Game Week 8 deadline. So once again, everyone, thank you for watching FPL Fanzone. I really do appreciate your support and for getting this far into the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Leave any comments below because that really does help with the YouTube algorithms. And I will catch you up later in the week as we get closer to the Game Week 8 deadline.